Chen Bai considers the best way to train these spirits, whose emotions cloud their judgment. The first step, he decides, is to weaken the influence of their unstable energy. Instead of taking a serious approach, he comes up with an idea that is both practical and slightly amusing. He will use telekinesis to play around with them. He convinces himself that this is not just for fun, but also a way to refine his control over his abilities. After all, in his previous life, he never specialized in mental skills, so his strength in this area is lacking. Clearly, this is his way of multitasking, training them while giving himself a free practice session. He attempts the full suppression first and lifts both sisters into the air. And as expected, Yan Kai is the first to complain, immediately demanding to know what he is doing as if it isn't obvious. She flails around, her reaction proving that she still doesn't understand anything about their situation. Chen Bai ignores her whining and gives them simple instructions. Resist with everything they have until their energy runs out. Since he is already at it, he decides to experiment further, focusing on shaping and controlling his telekinetic abilities. He quickly realizes the problem: managing two floating idiots at once is harder than expected. While he can maintain their overall positioning, he lacks precision in the details. The fact that they are still resisting makes their movements look uncoordinated and clumsy, like a pair of puppets with tangled strings. Before long, both sisters start looking exhausted. Chen Bai observes them closely, concluding that they have stopped resisting. However, they are not completely drained. They obviously still have some energy left, but for some reason, they have chosen to stop fighting. He suspects that their instincts have kicked in, and they finally realize that he is not actually trying to kill them yet. He shakes his head and points out their foolishness once again. They still do not understand the seriousness of their situation. If they cannot learn to control their emotional energy, they will eventually lose themselves completely, transforming into mindless, vengeful spirits. In that case, killing them right now would be the kinder option. Chen Bai increases the level of his telekinetic control and raises the intensity without any warning. A sudden force catches both sisters off guard. They are suspended in the air like helpless dolls. Their clothes begin to tear at the seams, barely holding together under the pressure. Attempting to fight back, they twist and flail, but their movements look more like a pair of confused birds stuck in midair rather than trained fighters. Their lack of control is painfully obvious. Neither of them can properly manage their energy, yet they still act like they know what they are doing. Then, this leads to loud moans. Both sisters lie on the ground, exhausted, barely managing to pull a sheet over themselves. Their earlier confidence has vanished, replaced by a desperate need to recover. Chen Bai, showing no sympathy, wastes no time and asks them a simple question. What would they do if they saw a zombie attacking a human? Yang Su, still clinging to her self-righteous ideals, declares that she would save the human and kill the zombie, as if she is some kind of hero. Yan Qi, never one to let her sister take all the attention, claims that she would do her best as well, but her priority would be to eliminate the zombie first. Clearly, both of them have suddenly developed common sense, which is a miracle considering their earlier behavior. Chen Bai gives a nod of approval, noting that they seem to have regained some rationality. He observes that despite their differences, one still clinging to her goody two-shoes mindset, while the other leans toward aggression, they have at least managed to avoid letting their emotional energy push them to the extreme. For now, they are neither blind saints nor mindless killers. Yang Su, ever the grateful one, thanks Chen Bai as if he has done them a great favor. Yang Qi, however, grits her teeth, clearly still holding a grudge. With barely concealed hostility, she promises that one day she will make him pay for treating them so harshly, as if she has the ability to do anything about it. Chen Bai ignores her childish threats and gets up, stretching as if this entire ordeal has been nothing more than an inconvenience. He points out that although they were unable to control their energy before, their natural talents allow them to absorb yin and gather yang, meaning they instinctively take in energy whether they understand it or not. That won't be enough. From now on, they will start over properly, learning from the basics. Raising his hand, he releases a strange purple energy that swirls around his fingers. He explains that they must learn to release the energy they have accumulated and manifest it into a tangible form. Of course, instead of making anything practical, the results are as ridiculous as expected. A small decorative bow hat appears on Yang Shu's head. She reaches up, confused, poking at it like a child who just discovered something shiny. Meanwhile, a long glove forms on the arm of Yan Kai. She studies it carefully, clearly unsure whether to be impressed or disappointed. Chen Bai, watching their reactions, probably regrets taking responsibility for these two. Chen Bai explains that mastering energy control means adjusting the remaining energy within the body according to one's own ability. Acting as if he is dealing with particularly slow learners, he states that he will use the next few days of rest to help them improve, though he does not seem too hopeful about their progress. Later, inside the Red Star Mental Hospital dungeon in Magic City, Yang Su plays the role of a noble savior, using benevolent pacification on one of the zombies. She acts as though she is healing the world, but in reality, she is just stalling. On the other side, Yan Qi, who never misses a chance to be destructive, unleashes twisting evil thoughts on another zombie, looking way too pleased with herself. The zombies groan and crack, struggling against their attacks. After dragging out the fight longer than necessary, they finally manage to take down the so-called small boss, the head nurse, who turns out to be more bark than bite. Yan Qi, always in a hurry to steal whatever power she can, absorbs yin, extracting evil thoughts like a collector hoarding rare items. Yang Su, of course, takes the opposite route, basking in the glow-yang energy as if she is achieving enlightenment. Both act as if they are undergoing deep spiritual transformations when, in reality, they are just repeating the same old process. Feeling overly confident, Yan Qi approaches Chen Bai, grabs his arm, and demands an evaluation. Not satisfied with words alone, she attempts to sneak some evil thoughts into his body, as if she has discovered his secret weapon. The effort, unsurprisingly, fails. Chen Bai, as unimpressed as ever, dismisses her attempt without much thought. Yan Qi, unwilling to admit defeat, scowls and claims that her failure is because he is already so bad that evil thoughts have no effect on him. She delivers this statement like a grand revelation, though it holds no real weight. Meanwhile, Yang Sui, finding amusement in her sister's frustration, chuckles at her expense. Before the conversation can get any dumber, Chen Bai receives a system notification. Checking his messages, he notices that Meng Meng has sent him something. Opening the group chat, he scans through the latest updates. Meng Meng informs the group that Sword Immortal needs assistance with a secret nightmare-level dungeon. Of course, this is phrased as a request, but the tone suggests that they expect Chen Bai to accept without question. Sword Immortal insists that if he has time, he should help. Deciding to avoid unnecessary discussions, Chen Bai instructs him to send the dungeon details privately. Sword Immortal, not wasting a second, immediately agrees and promises to send the information right away. Just when it seems like things are moving forward, Yeezy, another member of the chat, derails the conversation. Instead of focusing on the mission, he asks if there is an extra team slot and whether he can give it to his little sister. Clearly, everyone has different definitions of urgency. Chen Bai receives the dungeon details and scans the information. The location is Sushan Mountain Path, an exclusive nightmare-level dungeon. The description is unnecessarily poetic, trying too hard to sound mysterious. It claims the path is so difficult that climbing it is harder than reaching the heavens. The dungeon takes place in an ancient immortal mountain, where no immortals can be seen, yet the sound of swords still echoes through the air. The description rambles on, questioning who can endure the endless mountain road and why the mist-covered summit remains unreachable. Every step and every bridge is supposedly dangerous, and even the stones and trees are part of the challenge. Without the immortals' permission, those who fail will have their corpses sent tumbling down the cliffs. The entry requirements seem strict. Only the evolver known as Sword Immortal can lead the team, and the group's size cannot exceed 4 members. On top of that, there is a level cap of 10. Chen Bai quickly understands why Sword Immortal is in such a hurry. This level restriction means time is limited. Thinking back, he realizes that he never heard of this person in his past life. It does not take much thought to figure out why. Most likely, Sword Immortal never found reliable teammates and ended up dying in this very dungeon. If that was the case, this so-called legendary swordsman might not be as impressive as his name suggests. Deciding not to waste time, Chen Bai responds to the chat. He notes that the timing is perfect since he has not switched classes yet, meaning his level is still locked at 10. Without hesitation, he confirms that he will join the team. And as expected, the chat immediately erupts into chaos. Overlord declares that the last slot must be decided by rolling dice. Liu Huai jumps in, announcing his presence as if anyone asked. Then Zhengshu appears and reveals that Sword Immortal has already made arrangements with someone from another channel to join them, meaning the final slot is no longer up for debate. Of course, he apologizes, but the way he phrases it makes it sound like he enjoys ruining everyone's hopes. Hang Xiao wastes no time throwing out accusations. He questions how the so-called backdoor dealings are going and if the old Taoist has sold his dignity. Overlord, never one to miss an opportunity to stir the pot, asks Sword Immortal how much he was paid, declaring that he will offer double. But of course, dignity is non-negotiable. Yeezy, unable to accept the unfairness of it all, complains that his voice carries little weight in the middle of the argument. Attempting to regain control, Sword Immortal tells everyone to calm down. He explains that this dungeon is connected to their Dragon Nation's traditional cultivation, which is why he chose to bring Zhengshu along. In an effort to appease the group, he promises that next time everyone will get a fair chance. Whether anyone believes him is another matter entirely. Chen Bai reads the chat, amused by the pointless drama unfolding in front of him. Shaking his head, he turns to the two spirit sisters and announces that today's training is over. They should head home. As expected, Chen Bai immediately protests, claiming that she is still ready to fight. The idea of stopping when she can still kill frustrates her. She never knows when to back down, which is probably why she is always getting herself into trouble. Chen Bai shuts down her reckless enthusiasm, stating that continuing is pointless. If she keeps pushing forward now, she will only be walking straight into defeat. The next boss specializes in mental attacks, meaning she will be handing herself over as an easy target. Yan Qi grinds her teeth, clearly annoyed, but does not argue further. Meanwhile, Yang Su, ever the obedient one, smiles warmly and reassures Chen Bai that they will listen to him. Unlike her sister, she knows when to stop pretending she can handle everything. Later, at the base of a hill within the Shushan range, Chen Bai finds himself inside a thatched hut after being teleported into the dungeon. The place looks unimpressive, but he does not have much time to reflect on it before Meng appears, standing alongside Zhengsu Buxu. Zhengsu, ever eager to establish some sense of formality, greets Chen Bai respectfully, addressing him as senior brother before insisting that he should simply call him Zhengsu. The attempt at familiarity is a bit forced, but at least it is polite. Before the conversation can go any further, Sword Immortal materializes nearby. Instead of keeping things professional, he immediately acts like a fan meeting his idol. With far too much excitement, he expresses his eagerness to finally meet Chen Bai. Introducing himself formally, he declares his title as Sword Immortal, but quickly adds that his real name is Chu Zixun, as if that somehow makes a difference. Chen Bai acknowledges both Zhengsu and Zixun with a brief greeting, keeping it simple and polite. He states that it is nice to meet them, though his tone suggests he is more focused on getting things moving than on introductions. Meng, as usual, wastes no time and clings to the left arm of Chen Bai like a clingy girlfriend. Whether for comfort or just to claim some kind of imaginary position, the action is unnecessary, but Chen Bai does not seem bothered enough to comment on it. He then glances at the absurd number of swords strapped to Zixun and questions whether he has a weapon-based talent. It is not a difficult conclusion to reach. Anyone dragging around that much steel must have some kind of special ability, or else they're just making life harder for themselves. Zixun confirms the assumption, and without delay, a screen materializes in front of Chen Bai. The information is straightforward. Zixun is classified as an S-ranked Sword Immortal. When wielding sword-type equipment, he can trigger sword energy, with its power scaling based on his mental strength. In addition to this, he possesses the ability to create unique sword techniques. Each technique he develops permanently enhances all attributes, with the increase depending on the technique's grade. Reading through the details, Chen Bai casually remarks that it is a good talent, though his tone makes it clear that he is not overly impressed. It is useful, sure, but it is nothing game-breaking. Zixun, clearly uncomfortable with the compliment, downplays it immediately. Laughing awkwardly, he insists that it is just average, claiming that Chen Bai is overpraising him. Chen Bai, uninterested in dragging the conversation further, states that now that everyone has gathered, it is time to move forward. No more delays. Whether they are ready or not, the dungeon awaits. The group stands at the base of the towering Shushan Mountain, where jagged peaks stab into the cloudy sky. A thin mist curls around them, adding an unnecessary layer of drama to an already ominous setting. The air carries a strange stillness, as if the mountain itself is waiting to see which of them will fail first. Breaking the silence, Zixun speaks up, reminding the team of the task ahead. His voice carries urgency, making sure no one has conveniently forgotten what they signed up for. Not that anyone could. The trail in front of them is enough of a reminder, rugged, steep, and stretching endlessly toward the summit. This is no ordinary journey. It is a trial designed to crush egos and expose weaknesses. Failure is not just possible, it is practically expected for at least a few of them. Chen Bai scans the group, mentally preparing himself for the mess ahead. He knows this mountain will test more than just their strength. Strategy, courage, and trust will determine who makes it to the top. Unfortunately, trust is in short supply with this bunch. Taking their first steps onto the path, the group moves forward, each of them bracing for the unknown. The mountain looms above, silent and unyielding, as if watching their struggle with amusement. Whatever lies ahead, one thing is certain, this is going to be anything but easy. The Shushan Mountain Trail is known for breaking even the strongest of wills, separating those who are prepared from those who are just pretending to be. Chen Bai takes a step forward and his lips curl into a faint smirk, as if the challenge ahead is more of a personal amusement than an actual concern. Meng comments on how brief the dungeon's introduction has been, as if expecting a detailed welcome speech at the entrance. Chen Bai acknowledges the difficulty of the mountain path, though his tone carries more curiosity than concern. And as always, he seems more interested in the unknown dangers ahead than in preparing for them. His words leave the group feeling both encouraged and uneasy, because if Chen Bai is looking forward to surprises, that usually means things are about to get worse. Without hesitation, he gestures for the group to move ahead. Whether they are ready or not is no longer his problem. They obey, stepping onto the narrow path that twists and winds against jagged cliffs. Every turn seems more dangerous than the last, with sheer drops on either side daring them to make a mistake. His eyes narrow as the trail suddenly vanishes into thick, unnatural fog. This is not ordinary mist rolling in from the mountains. It moves too deliberately, swallowing the path ahead with unsettling precision. Jiangsu voices his concern, but his words are nearly lost beneath the distant howling of the wind. The swirling fog clings to the air, reducing their visibility to almost nothing. The tension rises, pressing against the group like an unseen force. Taking a careful step forward, Chen Bai remains fully alert. Knowing that this is likely the first real hurdle, he warns the others to pay attention to their surroundings and their footing, understanding that a single mistake here could mean the end. The path becomes even more treacherous, forcing them to exert more effort with every movement. Loose stones shift unpredictably beneath their feet, and the uneven ground offers little stability. Every step demands full concentration. The climb is no longer just challenging, it is actively working against them. Chen Bai pauses briefly, his sharp senses picking up a voice ahead. Someone is muttering the same phrase over and over, repeating in a slow, deliberate tone. The Shushan path is treacherous. The eerie repetition echoes through the fog, making the already unsettling atmosphere feel even heavier. His expression shifts instantly. Without hesitation, he lunges forward, his focus locked on the shadowy figure climbing ahead. Calling out, he addresses the old man, but there is no response. The figure keeps moving, steady and unbothered, as if completely unaware of those trailing behind. Summoning all of his strength, Chen Bai propels himself forward with full speed, his movements precise and controlled. He expects to close the distance easily, but the moment his feet touch the ground, his confidence falters. His eyes widen in disbelief. Despite his full-powered jump, he has not even come close. The old man continues his slow, deliberate chant, his voice repeating the same warning: the path to Shushan is treacherous. He drags the words as if savoring each syllable, as though the group does not already understand that the journey ahead is anything but easy. His voice carries on, declaring that the 5 elements of heaven and earth are difficult obstacles, stretching the sentence so painfully that even the most patient listener would grow restless. Zixin, clearly struggling with the situation, breaks the tension with his usual lack of subtlety. His loud voice booms as he calls out to Chen Bai, demanding an explanation for the strange old woodcutter. Chen Bai, unfazed, remains calm despite the growing confusion. He concludes that this is not an ordinary encounter but a guiding illusion. He instructs everyone to focus on the woodcutter's words, hinting that the repetitive chant likely holds some hidden meaning. Zixin, still too loud and dramatic for his own good, confirms that they are listening. He repeats what he just heard, stating that the elements of heaven and earth form the obstacles. Complaining slightly, he notes how unbearably slow the old man is chanting, as if they have all the time in the world. Sangsu, at least, seems to be thinking logically. He pieces together the clue and connects it to the environment. He suggests that the fog surrounding them must represent the water element of the 5 elements. With visibility so limited, it only makes sense that this is the first major hurdle they must overcome. Before anyone can confirm or deny his theory, the woodcutter's voice rises again. His chant deepens, his words carrying a strange weight. Water rises, the mist thickens, and when one sees flowers in the fog, it is difficult to return. The cryptic message does nothing to ease the tension. Chen Bai reacts immediately, his instincts warning him before logic can catch up. His voice sharpens as he calls out, declaring that danger is near. Wasting no time, he activates his biohazard gauntlet. Energy pulses from his hand, the glow cutting through the dense fog like a beacon. His stance is firm, his determination unwavering as he braces for the unknown challenge ahead. Then his eyes widen. Hovering in midair before him, a glowing sword materializes, its radiant blue energy crackling with an eerie presence. His heartbeat quickens, his sharp gaze locked onto the weapon. The mysterious blade radiates both answers and danger, though it is unclear which will come first. His expression hardens, brows furrowing as he senses the incoming attack. Without warning, the massive blade swings down with devastating force. The sheer momentum behind it is enough to make even him hesitate. Lowering his stance, he crouches defensively, absorbing as much force as possible. His immense physique, combined with the energy shield from his gauntlet, should be enough to withstand the impact. Yet the pressure is almost unbearable. Doubt flickers in his mind for the briefest second. Can he block this? He mutters the thought under his breath, sweat forming at his brow. Before he can fully brace himself, the blade slams into the ground with a thunderous boom. The impact sends vibrations through the earth, splitting the ground where it lands. Chen Bai, quick on his feet, leaps to the side just in time to avoid being caught in the attack. Chen Bai commands the sword to retreat, his movements swift and precise. The massive blade pulls back instantly, leaving behind deep fractures in the ground, a clear display of its overwhelming destructive force. The impact alone is enough to make even the strongest hesitate, but Chen Bai remains unfazed. His companions rush to his side, their faces painted with concern, though whether they are worried about him or themselves is unclear. Meng, as usual, is the first to blurt out a question, clearly shaken by the sudden attack. Without missing a beat, Chen Bai dismisses their worries with a simple shake of his head, refusing to waste time on needless concern. His focus remains locked on the battlefield, his mind already analyzing the next move. Zixin, struggling to keep his composure, announces that he cannot sense the next threat. A completely useless statement considering everyone is already on high alert. His suggestion for caution is as unnecessary as it is obvious. Sangshu at least attempts to be useful. Turning to Zixin, he reminds him to activate the talisman that he had given him earlier. His ability to sense sword intent is failing, which is a troubling sign. Something about this situation is unnatural, and every instinct tells him that they are missing a key piece of information. The group glances around, their movements tense, eyes darting in every direction. None of them can shake the feeling that something is lurking, just beyond their perception. Wasting no time, Zixin retrieves the talisman and activates it. Without hesitation, a golden light engulfs the team, the protective barrier forming around them in an instant. The shimmering shield temporarily blocks out any immediate threats, offering them a brief moment of safety. However, they all know that their reprieve will not last long. Their fears are confirmed when Zhengsu suddenly alerts everyone danger is approaching from the east. Reacting instantly, he unleashes a powerful counterattack, channeling his thunder-inducing tactics. A surge of energy erupts from his hands, colliding directly with the incoming blade. The force of the impact sends shockwaves rippling through the air, shaking the ground beneath them. Despite the raw power of the attack, the group stands firm, refusing to be thrown off balance. The enemy blade strikes again, but this time Chen Bai does not evade. Instead, he holds his ground, his sharp gaze fixed on the weapon. A glimmer of intrigue lights up his eyes, his expression unreadable. Rather than showing fear, he reaches out, his hand extending toward the blade as if drawn to it. His movements are unnervingly calm, a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding them. Zhengsu, realizing the danger, shouts a warning. The golden shield is weakening. If it shatters before they are prepared, they could be left vulnerable. Chen Bai, however, remains completely unconcerned. His grip tightens around the sword, his confidence unshaken. With a slight grin, he dismisses their worries entirely. He has already decided the sword belongs to him now. The sword pulses with energy as Chen Bai lifts it high above his head. Its aura glows, casting a bright light that illuminates the surrounding fog. His companions stare, awe clearly written across their faces. The sword's power is undeniable, and for a brief moment, they are all reminded of just how strong their leader really is. Meng, always quick to praise, enthusiastically declares that Chen Bai is truly awesome. She seems to think that the glow of the sword somehow makes him even more impressive, which in all honesty is more about her admiration than any real understanding of the weapon's power. The sword's stats materialize before them. Zhengsu looks startled. He stares at the information, clearly surprised. The level and strength of the sword are far beyond anything he expected, which shows just how out of touch he is with reality. Zixin, who never misses a chance to share his thoughts, wonders aloud if the sword has its own consciousness. Given its strange lack of resistance, he's baffled, acting like this revelation is something profound. Clearly, he has little understanding of the mystical properties of weapons, though he still feels the need to comment on every detail. Chen Bai, unfazed by their reaction, decides to demonstrate why this sword is so powerful. He gestures as a screen materializes in front of them, showing the sword's full stats in detail. The screen reveals the sword's impressive attributes, each one more ridiculous than the last. The 5 elements sword spirit, water. Flowing azure levels at a staggering 10. Its stats are out of this world with a strength of 60, agility of 120, physique of 60, and spiritual power of 60. The sword's true power, however, is unlocked in water. When surrounded by water vapor, all attributes and penetration abilities are multiplied by 10. But when the sword is out of water, its stats drop to only 10% of their original value, making it nearly useless on dry land. Chen Bai smiles at the screen, clearly impressed with the sword's potential, while the group remains stunned. They barely have time to process this information when the screen continues. The sword has an interaction feature that boosts attribute bonuses when fighting alongside a metal attribute sword spirit. However, it also has a severe disadvantage when paired with an earth attribute sword spirit, reducing its effectiveness. The real power comes when all 5 elements are present. At that point, the sword's attributes double, making it one of the most powerful weapons they've seen. Finally, the sword can integrate with other swords, passing on its skills and providing attribute bonuses. The group examines the sword's capabilities, their faces filled with admiration, though most of them barely understand what they are looking at. Zhengshu, desperate to sound insightful, points out that the sword's power increases with the presence of water vapor. He quickly connects this to why the golden shield barely lasted a second. His conclusion, though obvious, is stated with the enthusiasm of someone discovering a grand secret. He estimates that in this mist, the sword's boost is likely 3 to 5 times stronger, an unnecessary detail since everyone already saw how overpowered the weapon is. Zixen, unable to hold back his excitement, declares the sword's spirit to be truly remarkable. His admiration borders on worship, though it is unclear if he is praising the weapon or just wishing he was the one wielding it. Chen Bai, remaining as composed as ever, comments that this sword spirit would be more effective in the hands of Chu Zixun. However, since he is currently controlling it through special means, he cannot hand it over. The statement, though polite, makes it clear that Zixun will not be getting his hands on the sword anytime soon. Zixun, flustered but unwilling to back down, quickly insists that he does not want the sword handed to him. Instead, he wants to cultivate the sword spirit himself, claiming that this will allow him to form a closer bond with it. His determination is almost admirable, but it also reeks of desperation. Meng, always eager to contribute, suddenly shifts the conversation. Turning to Chen Bai, she points out that if the obstacles in this journey are formed by the 5 elements of heaven and earth, then logically, they should be able to gather 5 sword spirits. She presents the idea as if it is a groundbreaking discovery, though it is nothing more than a basic observation. Chen Bai silently considers her words. While it would be ideal to collect all 5 elemental sword spirits, his current abilities limit him to controlling only 3. He acknowledges that if he gets the chance in the future, he will try to gather all 5. However, for now, he must work within his constraints. His skill description confirms this limitation. The Biohazard Disaster ability, classified as a high-level Lord Brain skill, allows him to permanently control up to 3 creatures whose spiritual power is lower than his own. Not wasting any more time on discussion, Chen Bai turns back to the group and announces that the danger has been dealt with. He instructs them to continue their climb. As they ascend the steep staircase, Zhengshu, ever the flatterer, suddenly speaks up. He praises Chen Bai, calling him both powerful and versatile. His confidence in their leader is absolute, and he boldly declares that this dungeon will surely be an easy success. His optimism is either inspiring or completely naive. Zixun, catching onto the underlying politics of their situation, finally understands why Crow was so eager to provide him with equipment and skill books. He realizes that Crow was aiming for the position in the group. The group trudges forward. The fog finally lifts, revealing the path ahead. They pause, taking in the newly visible surroundings, relieved that they can now see further than a few steps ahead. Zhengshu, eager to state the obvious, points out that the fog has cleared and assumes this means they have officially completed the first level. His words carry an unnecessary air of authority, as if he has just solved some great mystery instead of confirming what everyone can already see. Their relief is short-lived. Looking at the endless stretch of road ahead, Meng groans, realizing just how far they still have to go. She voices her frustration, complaining that if the 5 elements form the obstacles, they have only completed 1/5 of the journey. Her exhaustion is evident, though considering how little she's actually done, it is questionable why she is already tired. Before anyone can respond to her whining, Zixun suddenly reacts, his eyes widening in alarm. He shouts for everyone to look ahead, his voice unnecessarily loud, as if they wouldn't have noticed otherwise. The group instantly freezes, spotting a familiar figure standing in the distance. The old woodcutter, the same one who appeared before, waits for them once again. His silhouette is framed by the eerie light filtering through the trees, his presence as unsettling as before. Zixun, never one to handle surprises well, blurts out his recognition of the woodcutter, as if the group did not already see him. His reaction is entirely unnecessary, but his excitement makes it clear that he still has not learned how to process things silently. The woodcutter remains still, his voice breaking through the silence. He repeats the same ominous chant, his tone as slow and deliberate as before. The road to Shushan is treacherous. The road to Shushan is treacherous. The 5 elements of heaven and earth form the obstacles. They step deeper into the forest, the atmosphere becomes heavier, the air thick with an unnatural tension. Chen Bai, ever the strategist, sharpens his focus and scans the area. His keen instincts pick up the danger immediately. There are monsters hiding in the woods, waiting in the shadows, blending into the environment. One of the less perceptive members of the group mutters about the trees and bushes feeling like enemies, stating the obvious with unnecessary drama. The others exchange uneasy glances, clearly realizing that this fight will not be as simple as their last. Around them, the forest seems to shift, the shadows twisting unnaturally. The trees groan as if alive, and the undergrowth rustles with movement. Chen Bai, unfazed by the eerie display, steps forward with confidence, his eyes gleaming with excitement. He immediately recognizes what is happening. This will not be a battle against one enemy, it will be a group battle. And that is exactly what he enjoys the most. A sly smile spreads across his face as the forest fully reveals its hidden threats. The trees bend and twist unnaturally, the earth beneath them trembling as grotesque creatures begin to emerge. Their monstrous forms blend seamlessly with the foliage, making it difficult to tell where nature ends and the enemy begins. The sight is unsettling, but Chen Bai does not flinch. The creatures move with eerie precision, their attacks synchronized like a well-trained army. The level of coordination is enough to make most warriors hesitate. Instead of showing concern, Chen Bai's grin widens. The thrill of battle surges through him. Unlike his companions who are still adjusting to the situation, he does not hesitate. He lives for moments like these. He tightens his grip, his stance shifting as he prepares for combat. Charging straight into battle has always been his favorite part. Now it is time to have some fun. Zhengshu, always the one to analyze everything as if it makes him sound smarter, recalls the lyrics of the woodcutter's chant and states that this level should contain numerous monsters hidden in the grass. He also guesses that the sword they are looking for is likely concealed somewhere in the vegetation. His observation, while technically correct, does nothing to change the situation, as if simply stating the obvious is enough to help. Zixen, on the other hand, dismisses the need to overthink the woodcutter's words. He confidently declares that there is no point dwelling on the deeper meaning of the chant. However, just as he finishes his sentence, something catches his eye. Before he can process what he is seeing, every tree monster in the area is already cut cleanly in half. Stunned, he stares at the scene, momentarily speechless. His delayed reaction kicks in, and he barely manages to blurt out his surprise. The battle is already over before it even began. Standing at the center of the devastation is Chen Bai, completely still, holding a sword in each hand. It takes a moment for the others to realize what just happened. Without anyone noticing, he has single-handedly eliminated every tree monster in the area in an instant. The first sword is, of course, the water spirit's sword, which has already demonstrated its immense power. The second sword, however, is new, the wood spirit's sword, freshly obtained from this level's challenge. A screen materializes displaying the stats of the 5 elements spirit sword, wood. It is named Hidden Greenery, currently at level 2. The details reveal that in areas with abundant vegetation, it can multiply all attributes up to 5 times. Its ability allows it to hide within any plant or wooden object to charge up energy. Once fully charged, it launches with tenfold force and penetration, making it a deadly ambush weapon. Chen Bai, analyzing its properties, acknowledges its synergy with the water spirit's sword. Since water helps plants grow, the combination makes sense. The sword's ability to merge into any grass, tree, or wooden structure enhances its stealth and ambush potential, making it particularly dangerous in forested environments. Without wasting any time, he moves forward, uninterested in lingering. Meng, staying close, follows without hesitation. Turning back to Zixen and Zhengshu, she calls them out for standing around uselessly. She reminds them to keep moving instead of gawking at Chen Bai's overwhelming efficiency. Zixen and Zhengshu exchange glances, both suddenly questioning their purpose in this mission. With battles ending before they can even react, they begin to wonder why they are even here in the first place. The old woodcutter makes yet another appearance, as if he has nothing better to do. His slow, ominous chant continues, his voice stretching out the same warning over and over. The Shushan path is treacherous. The Shushan path is treacherous. He repeats himself like a broken record, making sure no one forgets what they already know. His chant then shifts slightly, warning of strange rocks, perilous cliffs, and the looming threat of falling into an abyss. Clearly, he enjoys watching people struggle. Ignoring him, the group presses forward, making their way uphill through a narrow path. The terrain grows increasingly unstable. Without warning, a strange haze rolls in, followed by sand raining down from above. A powerful wind whips through the air, turning into a full-blown sandstorm. The group braces themselves, struggling to keep their footing. Zhengshu, always quick to announce his problems instead of solving them, declares that there is no way to move forward. Without thinking twice, he reaches for the golden light protective talisman, preparing to use it. However, before he can activate it, Meng smacks his hand away, stopping him. She points out that the talisman is not something to be used so carelessly. Clearly, making it was no easy task, and wasting it now would be foolish. Instead, she pulls out an alternative solution, strange swimming goggles, which she is already wearing herself. Without hesitation, she hands a pair to Zhengshu. He takes them reluctantly, his expression somewhere between confusion and disbelief. As he puts them on, he dryly comments that Meng seems to have quite a complete set of equipment for someone who claims to be unprepared. She casually responds that the goggles were made temporarily through dreaming, as if that explains anything. Following her lead, everyone else wears the goggles. Chen Bai, unimpressed but practical, admits that they are at least useful. Now he does not have to keep blocking his eyes from the sand. Although the dust and grit cannot truly harm him, having it constantly blow into his face is still an annoying inconvenience. Just as he finishes speaking, a massive rock suddenly crashes down near him. Reacting instantly, he leaps away, avoiding the impact with ease. Unfortunately, Zixen is not as quick. Failing to counter the sudden attack, he loses his footing and slips, falling down before anyone can stop him. Zhengshu and Meng Meng immediately shout in alarm, their voices barely audible over the howling wind. The sandstorm thickens, making it impossible to see where Chen Bai and Zixen have fallen. Panicking, Zhengshu turns to Meng Meng, asking her what they should do. With visibility so low, they cannot even tell how far the two have fallen. Meng Meng, remaining surprisingly calm, reassures him. She confidently states that she will go find them. Preparing to manifest her abilities, she steps forward, ready to act. Before she can do anything, however, the sandstorm suddenly shifts. The swirling winds condense into a powerful sand whirlpool, pulling in everything around it. Then, just as quickly as it formed, the storm splits open with a loud whoosh. Emerging from the chaos, Chen Bai reappears, completely unharmed. He strides forward, holding Zixen with one arm and gripping his sword in the other. Zhengshu and Meng Meng rush toward Chen Bai and Zixen, their expressions filled with concern, though at this point they should probably be used to this kind of chaos. Zixen, still coughing heavily, complains that he has swallowed a mouthful of sand, as if that is the biggest issue right now. His dramatic reaction suggests you might believe he has survived some life-threatening ordeal, when in reality he simply failed to keep his mouth shut during a sandstorm. Chen Bai, meanwhile, remains completely unfazed. He explains that the dungeon restricts flying, forcing him to rely on mid-air dashes, which consume far more energy than usual. After just a few uses, he can already feel the exhaustion setting in. He points out that if Meng Meng had actually jumped out earlier, it would have only made things more difficult. Not only would it have been an unnecessary risk, but it would have also drained even more of his stamina to save her. Meng Meng, for once, is left speechless. Instead of responding, she just stares at Chen Bai, seemingly at a loss for words. Zhengshu, attempting to sound thoughtful, suggests that they need to take a moment to strategize. He points out the obvious, that getting pushed off the cliff by the sword attack would be a major problem, as if everyone had not already figured that out. Adding to his brilliant insights, he notes that the sandstorm is strong enough to block spiritual power detection, making it impossible to predict the timing or location of the next attack. His realization, while accurate, is also completely useless since it does not provide any solutions. Chen Bai, clearly unimpressed, simplifies the situation for them. He explains that before the wall protrudes to attack, there is a slight rumbling vibration for about half a second. If they focus and sense it, they can react in time to dodge. However, they must ignore the distractions caused by the wind and sand. If they can pick up on the vibration, avoiding the attacks will be simple. Zixen, always eager to flatter, praises Chen Bai for noticing such a small detail after just one encounter. His admiration is expected, but his surprised tone suggests he still underestimates how much sharper Chen Bai is compared to the rest of them. Chen Bai, having no patience for excessive praise, cuts the discussion short. He instructs them all to stay put and wait for the next attack. If anyone fails to react in time, they should just stay close to him. At this point, it is the only way to ensure they do not get themselves killed. All three of them acknowledge his instructions immediately, their obedience proving that they are finally starting to accept their own shortcomings. Just then, the ground rumbles again. Without warning, another massive stone crashes onto the path. The group, now alert, rushes forward, narrowly avoiding the impact. Once they pause, Chen Bai gives them a brief nod of approval. It seems they have finally solved the problem of dodging the sword of the cliff. At the very least, they now know how to keep themselves from getting flattened. Chen Bai wastes no time and states that they should clear this level as quickly as possible. Meng Meng, always eager to find something new to talk about, immediately turns to him and brings up the Earth Spirit's sword, wondering if he is interested in it. She suggests that it should be somewhere in this area and subtly hints that if he does not want it, perhaps someone else could take it. Chen Bai immediately shuts down the idea, showing no interest in the Earth Spirit's sword. Zhengshu, always ready to explain things that Chen Bai already knows, jumps in to clarify. He states the obvious, an Earth Spirit sword would not be compatible with Chen Bai's Water and Wood Spirit swords. Instead of helping, it would actually restrict the Water Spirit sword's abilities. His tone suggests that he thinks he is offering some grand insight when, in reality, he is just repeating the basics of elemental interactions. Chen Bai, maintaining his patience, agrees and adds a more relevant point. He reminds them that he can only control 3 elemental swords at a time. Since Earth is not an option, his final choice should either be gold or fire. Unlike the others, he is actually thinking ahead. With that settled, the group resumes their journey, pushing forward through the scorching terrain. Before long, the old woodcutter appears again. As if he is stuck in an endless loop, he resumes his usual chanting. The Shushan path is treacherous. The Shushan path is treacherous. The group barely reacts this time. By now, they have accepted that this man exists only to make their lives more miserable. The chant continues, and this time he includes a new warning. He speaks of the 5 elements of heaven and earth forming obstacles and adds that the scorching sun burns fiercely, leaving one dizzy and speechless. The group soon realizes that this is not just poetic nonsense. The temperature skyrockets and the intensity of the sunlight becomes unbearable. Heat beats down on them from all sides, leaving them drenched in sweat and struggling to breathe properly. Despite their exhaustion, they keep pushing forward, though each step feels heavier than the last. Zhengshu, never one to endure discomfort silently, complains first. He loudly declares that he cannot take it anymore and dramatically claims that he is about to be roasted alive. He points out that he is no longer sweating, which instead of being a fun fact is actually a serious sign of dehydration. He frantically states that he needs water, as if saying it will somehow summon a fresh spring in the middle of this inferno. Zixen, despite being in the same miserable state, at least tries to analyze the situation. He mutters that if the fire spirit sword is trying to burn them alive, then it must be the most insidious and cruel spirit sword he has ever encountered. Unlike the other swords, which had clear patterns of attack, this one does not need direct force. It is slowly cooking them alive. Meng, her face turning red from the heat, is barely holding on. Sweat drips down her face more than she has ever experienced before. Gasping for air, she points out that the moment any water appears, it instantly evaporates. Even the shade, which should offer some relief, is completely useless. In a desperate voice, she turns to Chen Bai and admits that she is about to dry up completely. Chen Bai, standing calm and collected as if he is walking through a spring breeze instead of a furnace, responds without the slightest trace of panic. He assures her that there is no need to worry. He knows exactly what's happening. In a steady voice, he explains that brutality is not the only form of fire. True fire does not simply burn in an instant, it waits patiently, raising the temperature slowly, preparing for the perfect moment. Only with enough fuel can the fire grow strong. Zixen, struggling through the suffocating heat, turns to Chen Bai and questions whether he has already figured out when the fire spirit's sword will arrive. His voice carries both hope and exhaustion, as if expecting Chen Bai to solve all their problems once again. Chen Bai, as usual, remains completely composed. He states that the woodcutter's song has already provided the answer. The moment they become dizzy and speechless, that is when the sword will strike. Unlike the others, he has been paying attention. Just then, Zhengshu, gasping for breath, looks up. His already blurred vision catches a sharp glint of metal moving against the blinding burning sky. The fire spirit's sword is descending. Before he can even react, the sword speeds toward him, aiming straight for his forehead. He does not move. Whether it is the heat, exhaustion, or sheer panic, his body refuses to obey. For a brief moment, he is frozen in place, completely hopeless. Then at the last second, Chen Bai steps in, moving effortlessly. He reaches out and snatches the sword mid-air before it can land its strike. His grip is firm, his expression unreadable as he utters a simple confirmation. He has it. Zhengshu, still unable to process what just happened, slowly exhales. The relief on his face is unmistakable. He had already resigned himself to whatever fiery doom awaited, but now, save at the last possible moment, he can finally breathe again. A system notification appears, revealing the stats of the 5 elements: sword spirit, fire. Named Heartburn, it is already at level 12, the highest of the elemental swords they have encountered so far. Its abilities are even more dangerous than expected. Its strength increases with temperature, meaning the hotter it gets, the more powerful it becomes. Once the temperature exceeds 100 degrees, all attributes increase tenfold. Additionally, it can hide within sunlight and evaporate water within a specified range, making it nearly impossible to counter with traditional methods. Chen Bai examines the sword in his hand, noting that it has already been tamed. With this, he has reached his limit, 3 elemental swords under his control. He quickly instructs the others to finish this part of the journey and focus on rehydrating themselves before moving forward. Reaching the top of the mountain, the temperature finally returns to normal, granting them some much-needed relief. Zhengshu and Zixen immediately collapse onto the ground, drinking water as if they have just returned from the brink of death. Their exaggerated exhaustion is almost comical. Meng and Chen Bai take a more measured approach, rehydrating themselves enough to regain their strength without making a scene. Just as the group begins to relax, Chen Bai's sharp gaze catches movement. The old woodcutter is back, Chanting in his usual eerie tone, he repeats the same tired warning. The Shushan path is treacherous. His voice carries on, revealing a new part of the chant. The 5 elements of heaven and earth form the obstacle. Then, with a dramatic pause, he finishes with a flash of golden light, a head and body part, never to be reunited. Chen Bai processes the words carefully. The message is clear. The Golden Spirit's sword is up next, and unlike the others, this will not be about endurance or survival. This is a battle trial. A slow smirk crosses his face. After all the frustration this dungeon has put him through, a proper fight is exactly what he needs. Since the 5 elemental swords have already been tamed, he cannot take the Golden Spirit's sword for himself. But that does not matter. He can still make it suffer. Chen Bai and his group reach the towering cliffs. Stories whispered in dim taverns claim that these massive stones were shaped by time itself. At the peak, the prize waits, a sword straight out of legends. Its golden hilt catches the weak sunlight, luring the ambitious with dreams of glory and the reckless with certain disaster. Zixen, stating the obvious as if it is a great discovery, points out that this must be the territory of the Golden Spirit's sword. Meng Meng, acting as if this is some great revelation, declares that this looks like a simple combat stage, as if anything has ever been that easy. Zixen, staring at the sword like it personally insulted him, suddenly realizes something. The blade is not fully forged yet. Zhengshu, trying too hard to sound intelligent, questions how an unfinished sword can still glow with golden light. Clearly, this is not going to be simple. Chen Bai, already tired of their unnecessary thinking, shuts down the discussion. Instead of standing around, wasting time on theories, he makes a decision. With no hesitation, he rushes forward, gripping his 3 swords. His only answer is action. The best way to find out the truth is to fight. Chen Bai makes his move without hesitation. His hand grips the hilt of his sword, muscles tightening, fully expecting some kind of trick. Instead of wasting time thinking, he swings. The blade cuts through the air, its sharp edge slicing with precision. The impact rings out as the sword strikes the ancient anvil beside it. A clear, pure sound echoes through the stone pillars, almost like music. The blade vibrates under the force, releasing a burst of golden light before slowly calming. Its glow fades, but something about it feels stronger. Hearing the clear reaction from the sword, Chen Bai does not take his eyes off it. He already understands. This is no ordinary weapon. Its value increases when struck. It is not just a blade, it is something greater. Every battle shapes it, every hit makes it stronger. He speaks his thoughts aloud, piecing together the mystery. True steel is forged through endless tempering. Real gold is only made stronger by fire. This sword follows the same rule. It learns. A sword, as if listening, responds. Its glow deepens, pulsing with energy, almost like it agrees. Testing it again, Chen Bai swings harder. The blade meets stone with force, sending a crackling energy through the air. Instead of breaking, the sword absorbs the impact, growing even stronger. Its golden light sharpens, burning brighter. Not one to back down, Chen Bai pushes further. His form remains perfect as he leaps, bringing the sword down in a controlled yet devastating arc. He pulls back, watching closely. The blade pulses with fierce golden light as if alive. His companions, standing uselessly in the background, watch in silence. They do not dare move. Their faces are a mix of awe and fear, fully realizing that they might be standing too close to something far beyond their control. Zhengshu, always the slow one, finally reacts. He turns to Zixen, repeating what Chen Bai just said, as if confirming reality for himself. Zixen, not much better, nods. He starts wondering out loud, his voice full of pointless curiosity. If the sword keeps increasing in power endlessly, the result must be something extreme. Zhengshu, desperate to sound intelligent, claims he was thinking the same thing. The golden sword suddenly flashes, unleashing a burst of bright light. But Chen Bai, always ahead of the game, moves first. He grabs the sword by its hilt with ease, unfazed by the attack. Hearing his own thoughts, he analyzes the weapon like a human calculator. The blade is as thin as a sheet of paper, but the power inside is immense. He estimates its strength to be close to 200, realizing that its stamina decline must have shifted its power and speed to compensate. Other swords have a total attribute score of 300, meaning most of this sword's strength comes from raw power and speed alone. He considers this for a moment, thinking about its physique stat. With no hesitation, he grips the golden sword with both hands. Instead of admiring it, he bends the blade and snaps it in half like it is made of cheap scrap metal. A notification appears. The system confirms his victory. Kill the Golden Spirit's sword. 100 refinement, earn 25,000 experience points based on combat contribution. Chen Bai barely reacts. To him, the reward feels underwhelming, as if the system is being too generous for something this easy. He mutters to himself that it feels more like 10 points at best. Shrugging, he's glad he did not bother picking the Golden Spirit's sword for himself. Depending on luck for the final hit is just not his style. Besides, this so-called legendary weapon was far too easy to destroy. What kind of challenge is that? The group suddenly notices movement. The old woodcutter appears once again, chanting in his eerie tone. His voice carries the same repetitive warning about the Shushan path. Over and over, he repeats that the journey is full of dangers and the 5 elements form the obstacles. Passing by Chen Bai, the woodcutter continues his strange chant. He declares that even after overcoming the 5 elements, the mountain still stands. The endless road to seek the Tao is long and difficult. Without a strong heart, the path will never reveal itself. Slowly, the woodcutter makes his way down the stairs, still muttering his cryptic message. He warns that seeking immortality brings only suffering. Turning back is the wiser choice. He repeats this again and again, as if trying to convince himself. Meng, staring in confusion, watches the old man disappear. She turns to Chen Bai, completely lost. Somehow, the woodcutter managed to go down the mountain without them noticing. Chen Bai, suddenly alert, realizes something is wrong. His expression darkens. He calls out to Chu Zixin, already giving orders. The journey ahead will be long and Zixin must leave from the front. Zhang Shu, always slow to catch on, finally connects the dots. He repeats the woodcutter's words dramatically, acting as if he just unlocked some great secret. The endless road to seek the Tao is difficult. If the heart is weak, the path remains hidden. Since this is Zixin's dungeon trial, only he must have the determination to move forward. Chen Bai, unimpressed, turns to Zhengxu. He points out that Zhengxu's so-called insight should be quite high. If that is true, then he must surely understand what it means for the woodcutter to go down the mountain. Zhengxu rubs his head, looking completely lost. He hesitates, clearly unsure of what to say. Chen Bai, already expecting this level of uselessness, explains his thoughts. The woodcutter's actions feel misleading. After a long and exhausting journey, he suspects the old man wants to trick people into believing the real path lies downward. Thinking back, Chen Bai recalls a strange feeling. When the woodcutter passed by, a chill ran down his spine. The man is not just some harmless old wanderer. There is a real chance that he kills anyone who tries to descend the mountain. Zixin, realizing he noticed absolutely nothing, starts panicking. His voice carries nothing but self-doubt. If he did not sense anything, then maybe he does not even deserve to clear this trial. Chen Bai, already tired of his dramatics, reassures him. As long as he truly wants to seek the Tao, that is enough. Staying determined is the only thing that matters. His own patience is wearing thin. He has no intention of walking this so-called endless road forever. Zixin, snapping out of his self-pity, immediately agrees. His heart is set on seeking the Tao, and nothing will change that. The group continues forward. Hours pass. A notification finally appears. Secret Realm Instance Dungeon. Shushan Mountain Path has been cleared. Golden orbs burst into the sky, filling the air with a bright glow before falling into the hands of each group member. Another notification follows. The members who passed this level received a special reward, Shushan Token. The long, painful journey is over. A system notification confirms the final reward. The group is now free to leave the instance. This dungeon will no longer be accessible, and will instead turn into a one-time normal dungeon for all evolvers. The details of the Shushan Token appear. It is a special item that, when in hell, allows the user to wear the title Shushan Disciple. Wearing this title grants access to a special map of Shushan, covering levels 10 to 89. The token is permanently bound to the individual, meaning it cannot be transferred, gifted, or loaned. Chen Bai examines the token, clearly impressed. A map covering levels 10 to 89 is no small thing. Shushan's influence is truly massive. Despite the excitement, he quickly refocuses. His real priority is something much bigger. He still needs to gather the second SSS-level scroll and complete the Lido quest to change classes. If he does not complete the class change soon, he will remain stuck at level 10. Shushan can wait. His priority is leveling up. Meanwhile, Zixon approaches a wooden treasure box and turns to Chen Bai, showing his usual over-eagerness. He insists that Chen Bai should pick the reward first. Chen Bai accepts, wasting no time. Zixon, still playing the role of the respectful follower, repeats the process, making sure everyone knows the order. First, Chen Bai, then Meng. Zhengxu, as usual, puts himself last, acting overly grateful just for receiving the Shushan token. He tells everyone not to worry about saving anything for him, laying the humble act yet again. Back at the villa area, Chen Bai wakes up in his bed, returning from the dream space. The moment he opens his eyes, he sees Yan Qi and Yan Su standing on either side of him, both looking at him expectantly. Yan Su immediately reacts. She announces that he is awake, as if that was not already obvious. Yan Qi, never missing a chance to be difficult, crosses her arms and scoffs. Sleeping in the middle of the day makes him weak. Chen Bai sits up, unimpressed, weak. The idea is almost laughable. Even if Yan Qi turned herself into some untouchable ghost, floating around like an annoying spirit, she still would not be able to knock him down. Yan Qi, never willing to let anything go, lets out a mocking laugh, clearly thinking she has the upper hand. She insists he is bragging, claiming that if she really wanted to, she could knock him down in 3 seconds. The confidence is admirable, but the logic is completely missing. Chen Bai, already bored of the predictable challenge, does not even bother arguing. Instead, he mentions something far more interesting. Just now, he received a skill book from the Secret Realm. The book is a perfect match for the two of them. If they can actually knock him down, the book will be theirs. I hope that you liked today's video, and if you did, hit that like button as today's like goal is 1,500 likes. Comment next part down below for the next part. Also, consider subscribing with the notification bell on to get notified as soon as a new video drops onto the channel. You can also join the channel to support me financially and watch videos before public release. I'll meet you in the next video. Until then, thanks for watching.